UFOs are real, burgeoning, not going away. The topic is being drummed up everywhere, folks, and the church needs to wake up, which is why we are holding our virtual conference, Deception2026.com. Check it out. First, here's a word from our trusted sponsor. Folks, if you're over 40 and planning to retire someday, the window to protect what you build may be smaller than you realize. Here's a question most people never ask. Is your portfolio built for what's coming next? Many investors in their 40s and 50s discover they have little to no exposure to precious metals. That means that their savings are largely tied to markets, policies, and paper assets, with very little protection if conditions change. As retirement moves from someday to on the horizon, protecting what you've already built becomes just as important as growing it. That's where Noble Gold Investments comes in, helping investors reduce risk by adding physical gold to their portfolios. Right now may be a smart time to talk with Noble Gold Investments. No pressure, no sales gimmicks, just clear answers and a strategy built around your goals. Visit noblegoldinvestments.com and build your portfolio for the long term. Once again, folks, noblegoldinvestments.com. We invested. There's talk about gold going to $5,000 an ounce. Today, it's around 4,300 an ounce. It certainly could do that. We don't know. As with any investment, there's always a risk. Please consider all the financial risks that you may be taking in investing. However, in my opinion, I think gold may reach 5,000 an ounce in 2026. That's my prediction, and I'm sticking to it. But you can't bank on that. Do your own research. NobleGoldInvestments.com, NobleGoldInvestments.com. So I'm going to roll the clip, and then, of course, we'll go back and weigh in on it. So here we go. Let's check this out.
Hearing or watch the latest documentary, you think, is everybody nuts? Like, are they all in on it? Is it like me? But I've heard you talk about this so many times, matter of factly, on Joe Rogan and in the halls of Congress. I believe you, and I believe you believe it. And having watched this documentary, now I believe it too. Boy, if it's a lie, they got a lot of storied scientists to spew a bunch of nonsense at risk to their own careers and reputations about it. You've run the hearings. You've talked to countless guys who have been investigating this for years. What's your conclusion?
Look, we, especially from a national security perspective, want to know why it is that if these things or if whatever this is real, why is it, first of all, that members of Congress who serve as the oversight authority for the civilian arm, really the American people, are being denied access to the videos and photos of what we displayed in that hearing? Megan, Representative Burleson had that video dead dropped to him. It was scrubbed with any data that could point to who gave the information to him. But that is a confirmed real video. And as you were seeing, that is a type of footage that, unless it is basically leaked to us, we're being denied access to, specifically out of the Department of War. Now, this goes way back to last Congress, actually, when myself, Representative Gates, and Representative Burchett had actually done a field hearing following up on two whistleblowers, or a few whistleblowers that had come forward to Representative Gates' office that were pilots at Eglin Air Force Base, alleging that the U.S. government was covering this up. Of course, when you hear something like that, you're like, all right, you've seen this in sci-fi films or heard rumors about this, but never have dealt with it directly. And then basically, in a nutshell, Representative Gates, Burchett, and I went out to Eglin, and of course, they tried to cancel the meeting. We got the meeting back on. And then once we were there, we were actually denied access. We got into a massive fight with the base commander. We went in and out of the skiff. And then ultimately, without saying too much, part of how we got some of the information that we did is actually had asked one of the witnesses to draw for me the photograph or the image of this thing that was essentially being denied to us. So they're denying us the actual imagery, but the military officer was able to actually draw it for me, which I'm sure they didn't think that we were going to ask them to do that, but we did. And again, even dating back to my own military experience, there was one point when I was stationed at Portland Air National Guard prior to leaving active duty. And at that point in time, there was an airspace of incursion that had taken place that some of the pilots had been talking about. One specifically, I said, what is this thing specifically? Are you able to describe it? He couldn't. He got kind of spooked talking about it. And that's the in my opinion, he definitely ran into a UAP or saw a UAP or they're chasing one. But that is not the first time that we've had pilots in fear of losing their flight status for coming forward with this information. So I kind of started as a skeptic, but after leading into the investigations, after seeing some of the footage like you saw in that hearing, after talking to a number of people, not, people that are driving Winnebagos wearing tinfoil, but legitimate, credible people, it definitely seems real.
Mm-hmm. I see Air Force pilots you're talking about over and over in camp.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there and just kind of, talk about that. So Anna Paulina Luna, Matt Gaetz, Tim Burkett, they go to a certain particular place and they're trying to get access to it. And of course, and here's the rub, they can't get access to it. How is it possible that standing congressmen and congresswomen can't get access? Oh, you don't have a need to know. You don't have the proper clearance. And we hear this over and over again. In the Age of Disclosure film, one of the congresswomen, I forget her name, please forgive me, but she looks right at the camera and she says, we can't have secret places, secret parts in the government that are not for the people and by the people. Well, guess what? That's exactly what we have. And it's been that way literally for decades. So, they're talking about the film Age of Disclosure, and Megyn Kelly opens up saying, all these people, these are, really credible witnesses. They're all stating on the record, what? That we are not alone. Let's look at it right here. This is Nat Geo, January 2026, this month's edition. We are not alone. Are we alone? Well, and again, in Age of Disclosure, you have admirals, generals, ex-CIA, intelligence people, scientists. It's a whole potpourri of people in our government. Congressmen, congresswomen, ex-senators, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, looks right at the camera. We are not alone in the universe. I'm not alone in the universe. I'm not alone in the universe. The question is, what do you do with this? What does the church do with it? So Mondo and I were talking, Mondo Gonzalez and I were talking about this, and we know that the 2 Thessalonians chapter 4 is highly charged. There's 4 interpretations that the man of sin will not be revealed until the falling away happens, the apostasia. So there's 4 interpretations. But then when you go to 1 Timothy chapter 4, this is what you get. The Spirit expressly states, I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit, the Spirit expressly states that in the latter days, some will fall away from the faith. So there you go. It dovetails it. So Timothy is sitting here, or Paul is sitting here, and he's being transported. He's seeing time. In the latter days, this is where we are. Many will depart from the faith, doing what? Giving heed to the doctrines of demons. Russ Dizdar harped on this all the time. So, in my opinion, the moment you say this, he's throwing down the religious card. Well, it's not religion. It's the truth. What is the truth? It is the truth. The biblical prophetic narrative is the truth. Why? Because we've got a thread of prophecy that goes back 2,000 years. I just said it. Paul writing to Timothy, the Spirit expressly states that in the latter days, many will fall away from the faith, giving heed to doctrines of demons. I'm not making this up. So there it is. What do you do with that? What does the church do with that? Well, if you're a millennial, which most of the church is, then you don't pay any attention to Scripture at all as far as prophecy is concerned. Oh, we don't need to read that. Oh, it's allegory, and this is what we get. Folks, it's here, it's now, it's happening. Let's continue with this, and I'll weigh in on it after this next segment. Here we go.
These things that come out of nowhere that can do things no aircraft could, I believe them. They have absolutely no reason to lie about it, and they have every reason to not lie, to not say that they saw that when they did it. So you can see their reluctance in even talking about it. They don't want to be seen as a kook, but they saw what they saw. In the documentary, The Age of Disclosure, they do have former, it's called ATIP, and it's a group that's been investigating all of this for some time, officials talking about a breakthrough theory and how they think these UAPs operate, and it would explain some of the experiences people have had with them. Take a listen here to Stop 46.
This one breakthrough can be the key to interstellar travel, where you want to travel long distances without taking enormous amounts that are subject to time. We also have low plasticity because the bubble acts as a barrier between 2 space-time environments. This would eliminate or conceal most of the known signatures of conventional technologies. This is why radar would have difficulty tracking a craft, because the signal from the radar would be distorted by the energy field around it.
The radar signatures literally just move around the bubble and doesn't reflect back to the radar imagery.
So it's not surprising when someone takes a photo of a UAP, they find they get a fuzzy and distorted picture because they're actually taking a photo through a space-time barrier.
Do you know any of these guys, Representative? Because these quantum physicists that were all throughout this movie were very impressive, and they've been seriously and soberly trying to study this for some time.
Yeah.
Let me just stop right there and kind of weigh in. So, look, here's the craft, and Bob Lazar talks about this. There's a gravity wave. And Bob Lazar actually worked on back engineering the propulsion system for the craft, that Area 51, specifically S4. So as the craft is moving, this gravity wave is bending space-time as we know it. So there is those, where the craft is, they're not subject to the space-time continuum that we live in or that we know. They're a completely different time and space than we are. And this is why people who are taken, like Al Matthews, he's one of our speakers in deception2026.com, shameless plug. You guys need, it's $20 for crying out loud. You need to sign up and watch it. Al Matthews, he's taken, and 5 hours go by. 5 hours of missing time. Karen, missing time. Emil, missing time. We hear this over and over and over again. These craft can move through space-time as we know it. 90-degree turns, accelerate from 0 to 50 miles away like a bullet out of a gun, essentially, which would kill a normal human being unless you are bending the space around it. And this is why, just like Pudov just said, when you take a picture, it's all fuzzy. Well, the reason why it's fuzzy is because it's bending. The craft is in a bubble, and it's moving from one dimension to another. That's what it's doing. And you know what, folks? I get it. A lot of you out there are going, or some of you, I should say, will hear this and go, what is this? Why do fallen angels need flying saucers, for crying out loud? This is a book I'm writing. Hopefully it'll be out in the next year or two. We'll see what happens. My publisher, Charisma, keeps pushing it back and inserting other books, but that's fine. I can handle it. Here's something to think about. That there is technology in the Bible, and you've heard me talk about this. I'll give you one example. The 12 stones on the breastplate light up, right? The Urim and the Thummim light up. How does that even work? The Ark of the Covenant, technology? You bet it is. Supernatural technology all day long. But going back to the stones of the breastplate of the high priest, they would light up. The 12 tribes of Israel, the letters would be there, and the stones would, how is that even possible? Supernatural technology. One more. The two angels go in with slaughter weapons into Jerusalem. What is a slaughter weapon? Right? Then you get Ezekiel. What is that comes across that Ezekiel's looking at? Folks, the supernatural world is real, but there's technology that is in tandem with the supernatural world. Let's continue.
I actually had gone into the scape with one of them, and there are a number of other people who I think would back up these theories on it, not to mention when you're talking about a barrier or maybe something surrounding these things, there have been instances and reports from firsthand witnesses that these things do have a bubble, if you will call it that. What's even kind of crazier to see, Megan, is that, if this wasn't real, then why would the U.S. government or elements within the U.S. government be working so hard to make it difficult for us to say, okay, is this real? Is this not real? Can we see the evidence? The fact is that the pushback that we've received has been so incredibly obvious at this point that it just kind of furthers our own opinions on there are people that are controlling this information, and there does seem to be, even outside of the purview of, I think, sometimes our own secretaries who have the best intentions on declassifying this stuff, there is this internal intelligence battle on this topic. And so, you're talking earlier about whistleblower protections. One of the things that we're going to have to do, because what I did not want to do is host just another hearing with more witness testimony without providing the documents and evidence. I think that would probably be a waste of resources unless we could provide that directly to the American people. And we have received the list. I think it's over about 40 different documents to actually be able to get that information to provide it, but also to bring forward legislation out of oversight. And actually just left a hearing earlier talking to the chairman about it, to actually bring forward immunity for all of the people, some of them in the film, some personally personally that we know of to come talk with us in a skiff about locations or specifically more information pertaining to this without, being in fear of basically being hit with espionage.
We need to understand, and I know we're being monitored at least at some level. I mean, people watch the show, and we have no idea who is watching the show, but the numbers are up. I would say on an average between 10 and 15,000 a day. When you get someone like Avi Loeb or whatever, numbers go way up. But here's something to think about, folks. We have film. I think it's the best UFO film that we've ever seen. So the Kumbergaz UFO, it's real, burgeoning, not going away. We broke the story on that. Other people have stolen it. Gee, surprise, surprise. But Roger gave the film to us. My late business partner, Richard Shaw, went over that thing frame by frame. We actually had the 35 millimeter film. Rick had to go out and get a projector, to watch the thing. And he went over it, and what we discovered, once again, space-time was definitely displaced. Because there's a third entity. You see two entities in the opening of the craft, but there's a third entity that's going in and out like this, and it's in our Best of Watches series. That was Rick's discovery, and it's absolutely incredible. Folks, the phenomenon is real. What happens if President Donald Trump stands up and announces to the world, we're not alone? We are not alone in the universe. We're not alone. Okay, we've been visited by so-called extraterrestrials, and we believe that they're friendly and they're here to help us out. I'm just saying, folks, I'll go back to 1 Timothy chapter 4. The Spirit expressly states that in the latter days, some will fall away from the faith and heed and embrace, I'm paraphrasing here, and take in the doctrines of demons. I'm not going to name names here of television shows. There is a concerted effort to steer this conversation in one direction only. I'll say it again. This is the coming Great Deception. If Trump stands up and announces we are not alone, mark my words, people will flee the churches and they will believe the lie. And once again, 2 Thessalonians, right? Because they did not believe the truth, God sends them strong delusion. We're in the window of time where it's happening, folks. Wake up. Wake up. This is why there's a virtual conference coming up very shortly. We're nearing like 1,200 people so far. January 16th, January 17th, we're going to kick off with Mando Gonzalez. 75-minute presentation, very thorough. Gary Stearman, Mando Gonzalez, Larry Ragland, Alan DiDio, Tim Alberino, Josh Peck, Karen Wilkinson, Al Matthews, Vicky Joy Anderson, yours truly. 10 people, 10 speakers, and there'll be a Q&A at the end. We're also giving out some prizes, but that's not why we're doing this. The time is now. The time is now to get your family together and watch this presentation coming up. $20, that's 2 cups of coffee at Starbucks, pretty much, right? With tip. Seriously, guys, we've lowered the price and made it absolutely affordable. There's no excuse, except, well, I don't want to watch this because I don't believe in UFOs. Your Congress is talking about the UFO, UAP phenomenon. And these are not benevolent entities from Zeta Reticuli. We are the only Christian ministry, I'll boast here for a minute. We have 10 films on the phenomena. So we get into Close Encounters of the First, Second, Third, and Fourth Kind. I get that. But then we jump into the deep end of the pool. The abduction phenomenon. We sit down with 2 men and 2 women, all who have been taken. The women have had children, infants, taken by them in the 3rd month of pregnancy. No one's talking about that yet in the halls of Congress that I'm aware of. Counter mutilations. No one's linking the counter mutilations, in Congress anyway, with the UFO phenomenon. We are. We have 2 films on Roswell. Here's a piece of metal from a debris field. Nobody has that. According to our friend Chuck Sikowski, who was our guide, along with Frank Kibber, that took us out to the debris field outside Roswell, Mexico. We are the only film crew ever to actually show a piece of the metal coming up out of the ground. Now, I can't prove that, but that's what Chuck told me, and that's what I'm going with. He would know. 2 films on Roswell. Finally, what is the truth? Are these benevolent entities from some faraway distant planet? Folks, age of disclosure. If you have not seen that film, you need to spend the money and watch it. And then a couple of months from now, Spielberg's movie is coming out. I already did a presentation on that, and that presentation will be presented in our virtual conference on January 16th and 17th. Go to the website, deception2026.com, deception2026.com. Hope to see you there. God bless you guys. We do a new show every day. I know some of you might be weary about the repetition of repeating it. And folks, you need to understand that the church is so far behind where the mainstream media is, where Congress is, where movies like Age of Disclosure. I've done my job. Gil and I have 10 films. Can't do any more than that. You can watch all the films by going to streaming.lamarzulli.net, or if you got an old-fashioned DVD player, you can order the DVDs, lamarzulli.com. That's it for today. Thank you so much for coming here. I appreciate it. We love you guys. Thank you for your support. Be back again tomorrow with another show. Just remember that UFOs are real, burgeoning, and not going away. Folks, L.A. Marzulli here. What happens if our President Donald J. Trump makes an announcement from the White House? He looks right at the camera and he says, "We are not alone in the universe." How does that affect you? How does that affect your faith? How does that affect what you believe in? Folks, we have the answers that will shed light on this controversial subject. The Great UFO Deception Conference, Unmasking the Strong Delusion, January 16th and 17th. You'll hear from renowned experts like Gary Stearman, Mondo Gonzalez, Derek Hilbert, former abductee and author Karen Wilkinson, authors Alan DiDio, Vicky Joy Emerson, former abductee Al Matthews, Jim Alberino, Josh Peck, Larry Ragger, and of course, L.A. Marzulli. Arm yourself with the truth from a biblical perspective. Go to www.deception2026.com. That's www.deception2026.com. I'll see you there.